Hello everybody, here's Paul Skorpen, and I'm here standing in front of the primary dig that they've been doing here for the last 5 or 6 years here in Karan Tepe in southeastern Anatolia. What can I say about Karan Tepe? If you look in front of me, you'll see a fenced-in area, rather large, going around this entire hillside. And even if you go to where they did partial digs there and there and there, not to mention here, you'll find reoccurring T-forms popping up from the earth. And this is my third visit in about a week here, and it's the second time I've been here to visit Karan Tepe along with Göbekli Tepe and some other tepes, this time with a group. I just led a group through this area here. We stayed in Şanlıurfa and took trips every day to a number of different tepes that are surround the area here, all within about an 80-kilometer radius from each other. And the reason why I'm here now is because I want to get something off my chest, not to make it too dramatic, but I'm not an archaeologist, but I have a deep respect for our past, and it's one of my passions to go to temples in the Greek islands and also here in Anatolia to visit the old temples dating back all the way to Neolithic times. And that's what we have here in this corner of the world. This corner of the world is very special, as a matter of fact, because Şanlıurfa, if you go there, you'll see that they also celebrate the birth of Abraham, the father of the Judaic-Christian tradition, so the father of faith, one of the fathers of faith. And even there's a grave for Job, who was a man of great faith. And that's going back about 2,500 years or so. But what I'm standing now, Karan Tepe, is dated, carbon dating, going back at least 11,000 years, if not 12,000, even 13,000 years. Göbekli Tepe, about 42 kilometers away from here, is also dated over 10,000 years, 11,000 years old. And these sites, if I can say it properly, are rather intoxicating because, the truth be told, we don't know who built these things, and we don't know why they built them and what they used them for. And there are people who I respect deeply who are doing the excavation here and also in Göbekli Tepe. The excavation in Göbekli Tepe started in 2004. About 26 years ago, actually, when Klaus Schmidt was brought there and started digging there, the late German archaeologist who unfortunately passed away in 2014 from a heart attack. And under his training is a man named Lee Clare. Lee Clare is an Englishman who actually moved to Germany to learn the language and also to study their archaeology, and got his master's degree and PhD in Germany, as far as I know, in Cologne. And he took over responsibility for the dig of Göbekli Tepe, and his plan is actually, I know this personally from somebody, his plan is to spend more time here in Karan Tepe. And he's a nice enough man, but if you follow his YouTube presentations, and there are many going back years, you can see that more recently, because of the excavations they've been doing in Göbekli Tepe and also here, he's going against the theory of Klaus Schmidt. So Klaus Schmidt's theory was that these were actually temples or sanctuaries, and he made no bones about it. He didn't live to see this dig, Klaus Schmidt, but Göbekli Tepe, he claims, for him was very clearly a sanctuary which had nothing to do with community life, which means no homes. Now, Professor Lee Clare is now refuting Klaus Schmidt, saying that they found recent evidence that in the digs they've been doing this past summer in Göbekli Tepe, and also here they found evidence of homes with even fireplaces. Fine. They've yet to do carbon dating on these digs, okay? Even Lee Clare said that they haven't done carbon dating on these. And I think we have to be really careful to throw out a theory that at the same time these were being used for ceremonial purposes, they were also used around here. They were used. They had communities living here. I, I tend to go against that theory intuitively, because I think that my theory, and that's aligned with Klaus Schmidt's theory, is that first there was these constructions of these T-forms, these circles, and then maybe after they were used for 1,000 years, then came people and said, let's live here. That's not uncommon. That happens a lot, okay? So we have to wait for the carbon dating. That's not the biggest problem I have with Professor Clare. The other problem I have is that he did about 6 months ago a podcast with an Indian podcaster, and in this podcast, which is, you can see it on YouTube, he makes some claims which I think are actually quite irresponsible. Let's not forget that Mr. Clare is the spokesman for this dig in the English-speaking world, and he's also responsible for the dig. And what he says there is that he refuses to call these ceremonial places anymore. First of all, let me just get something off my chest, another thing off my chest. The moment anybody starts to present a talk and say, we are not allowed to speculate on who built these and what they built these for and how they built them, okay? And then soon after that, speculation starts to flow, okay? And I'm no exception. I confess my passion to also try to understand something like this. But Lee Clare is not allowed to do that because he's got a PhD and he's the spokesman and he's responsible for the dig. So he can't say, we're not allowed to speculate about the architects and builders of these temples, and then in the next breath say, these are not temples and these are not ceremony places, refuting his teacher, Klaus Schmidt. And he goes on to say it's his belief that they were just meeting places. In other words, if you look at enclosure D at Göbekli Tepe, which is one of the most extraordinary enclosures, it's a enclosure built up by columns, 12 columns in a circle, and they're about 4 to 5 meters high, carved out of a single piece of limestone with animal figures on the side. And okay, you probably know it yourselves. And in the middle there are 2 major columns facing south, not facing each other, facing south. And he actually says this represents people sitting in a circle, these 12 smaller columns, listening to the 2 figures in the middle give narratives about what's going on and about their past. And he also says that these people, even though they were sophisticated enough to build a temple like this or Göbekli Tepe, they were not sophisticated to believe in divinity. He says it very clearly. And I think there you really have to be careful, because if somebody's going to build a temple like this, which is massive, okay, it's massive, or whatever you call it, a community like this, which is massive, and I think they've only uncovered here maybe 2%, because if you look out over the horizon here, you'll see places where they have yet to really dig, and so this is just a very small area of Karahan Tepe. And then if you go to Göbekli Tepe, if you're fortunate enough, and I've been fortunate enough to go there a number of times, and you look at these enclosures one after the other, and then on the hillside, apparently homes that are being discovered now, and you look at how extraordinarily complicated they are and intricate they are, and the symbolism of the animals and the hands and so forth. I think you probably shouldn't be so quick to refute it or reduce it to the fact that it's a place where people just shared their culture to one another. And he even goes on to say that they found human bones in the homes of the people in Göbekli Tepe. And he said that was common back then, like at Catalahuk, that the people would bury their ancestors. And so he said there's graves there. Well, the graves had nothing to do with the temple here. They would never bury, as far as I know, they would never bury somebody here in the temple or in Göbekli Tepe. Maybe later, when they built homes there, and later means only 500 years after the construction of this, or Göbekli Tepe, or 1,000 years, then they decided, let's do what they do in Catalahuk, or what we do here is we bury the ancestors in the floor. So he sees it as a place of ancestor worshiping, which again, I think that you have to be really careful, because you're walking on rice paper, because if you're going to first of all say this is not a temple where they celebrate divinities, you know, but it's a place where basically it's a town hall where people would come together to share the town news and to share our history with each other, with the next generation. Then I think you're doing a lot of speculation there, an awful lot of speculation. I think, and he even warns us against it, and Professor Lee warns us against this. He said, we shouldn't try to understand what's going on here in terms of our modern way of thinking. And then what does he do? He says this is basically a town hall, and that this is where the elders would come to spread the traditions on the next generation. And I think that is, I'll tell you, I think it's wrong. I just think it's wrong. And there I'm speculating now, because I've been here a number of times, and when I'm here, I'm walking on hallowed ground, okay? I'll confess my work has to do with spirituality, but I can split archaeology and my passion for archaeology from my work in spirituality. You know, and I'm terribly drawn to a temple like this or Göbekli Tepe simply because you can't explain it in terms of any religions that we have existing right now. Not at all, not one bit. So I just wanted to get this off my chest. And then also there's another YouTuber, Matthew, who I respect tremendously, who actually did a video this month about the hall there, which is called the Hall of Phalluses, where there are 11 phalluses, so-called phalluses, in an antechamber there. And then Matthew, bless his soul, because he's sort of an armchair archaeologist, goes on to say this is a proof that they had a hot bath, that the water flew in and they heated the water. And I think there you go, and you're trying to apply Roman ideals onto Göbekli Tepe, and I think there you have to be careful as well. All of us have to be careful, including myself, because, you know, when I bring people here to Göbekli Tepe or Karahan Tepe or the other tepes here, then I do share with them my belief system. And I'm not going to do that now because I'm not going to partake in speculation. That's something I do professionally when I lead groups through Anatolia and lead groups to the tepes here. But I just wanted to say that if somebody takes on the position that Professor Claire Lee has taken on, to be both the spokesman for the dig here and also the representative to the English world of what his perception of what happened here, then everybody respects some carte blanche. And in that case, we have to be really careful, even with somebody who's as good-natured and as well-trained as Professor Lee, to take that with a grain of salt. Because if you ever, you know, we all have our perspective, we all have our luggage. We come here with expectations, we come here with glasses, and we try to view these objects here, these I call them temples, okay, through our perspectives. And our perspectives are so limited because they're built up out of time and space. You know, and they're strongly influenced by our culture today. And really, if you come here, you have to come here with no expectations at all, no preconceptions, no expectations, and then see what you see. And I can only tell you that I've been coming here now for about 3 years. This was not possible to visit until last year. But Göbekli Tepe, I brought a group in 2019, and I was spellbound by it, you know. And now when I hear Mr. Lee, I'm sorry to dwell on this or harp on this, when I hear Mr. Professor Lee talk on these YouTube videos about how this is not a temple, don't call it a temple. He's very adamant about that. Sometimes a student has to go against his teacher. This is not, then, and just say this is just a meeting place or a place where you worship your ancestors, then I think you're doing something something criminal nearly, because first of all, I think he shouldn't speculate at all, period. He can't help it, because everybody wants to speculate about what's going on behind me or what's going on in Göbekli Tepe. Everybody does. And he shouldn't, as a professor and as an archaeologist and somebody who is responsible for this site and a spokesman, he shouldn't do it, period, okay? Because everybody takes him for granted. Everybody believes what he says, and I appeal to Mr. Lee, Claire, that he should probably reconsider what he's sharing with the world right now. That's just my thought, my piece. Okay, so here you are at Karahan Tepe. If you ever have a chance to come here, or to Göbekli Tepe, or to the other tepes, do so and see what you experience here. Okay. Take care, folks, and greetings from Southeast Anatolia, and stay well and stay healthy and stay in peace. Thank you.